Hi, my little babies. Welcome back to another episode of What the Smut Book Reviews. Crazy eyes. Hi, my name is Candice. Thank you for joining me for another episode. I really appreciate it. Here at What the Smut Book Reviews, we review romance novels, in case you didn't know. If you're new here, that's what we do. Now, fair warning, because I've gotten a comment or two, a negative comment or two, over the course of the last few weeks. And I feel like I need to warn people now. Like, if you're here for a cut and dry book review, you came to the wrong place. My reviews are lengthy and full of other shit besides just what the book is about, okay? I go off on tangents frequently. I have rages and meltdowns frequently. And I blather on, sometimes completely off topic. So if you're not here for that, and my personal brand of humor, then you should go check out another book review page. I can't rec any to you because I don't actively watch other book review YouTubes. I probably should do that. I know of a few. I follow a few on Instagram, but I have not actually watched. So maybe I should do that. Might be a good idea. Anyway, all right, let's dive right in because we're gonna try and make this short and sweet. I say that every time, and it's usually a lie. But today, we're gonna, I did this last time. We're gonna, I swear to God, we're gonna. Okay, so, in today's video, kids, we are going to be going back to our Tillie Cole era. We are going to be reviewing this book, which is book 3 in Tillie Cole's Hades Hangmen Series. This is an MC romance. This book is dark. When I say dark, I mean chock full of triggers, okay? If you are a person who is easily triggered by rape, child abuse, child sexual assault, cutting. If you are triggered by any of those things, proceed with caution. Not only reading this book, but in this review as well, because I'm going to be talking about those things. So yeah. This entire series should come with like just a blanket. Triggers. All the triggers in your face. Here you go. Have some more triggers. They're good though. They're good. If you're a person who's not easily triggered, jump on it because these books are bomb. And I have been thoroughly sucked into this series. This book in particular, I was waiting for a hot minute. And I say waiting for as if I was reading these in real time as they were released, and I'm not like 5 years late jumping on the bandwagon. But when I say I was waiting for this one, it means I forced myself through book 2 to get to this. Like, this is the one I really wanted. And I feel like a lot of people can sympathize with that because if you started the series, you were immediately like, from the point of the ending of book 1, you were going, oh my God, Flame and Maddie, when is their book? I know you were, because that's what I was doing. Now, don't get me wrong, Kai and Lila were very good as well. But this book, it got me, bro. Right here, it got me right here, okay? So, in today's video, we will be reviewing this book. Now, this book is currently free to read with Kindle Unlimited. This entire series is free to read with KU. If you have KU, you can download all of them. There's a good few that have already been released, including 1 or 2 novellas. And so this is book 3, full length, obviously. Free to read with KU. If you want to purchase this book for your Kindle, you can get it for the price of $2.99. That's a fucking bargain. That's a steal. If you want this book in trade paperback, if you are wanting this very beautifully done cover, you can get it for the price of $14.99. Okay. Now, speaking on that, we're actually going to be, when this video airs, I'm going to start a giveaway for an extra copy of this book, because I have an extra copy of this book. Amazon be fucking up. I send everyone to Amazon to buy these books, right? But they piss me off frequently. So what had happened was, very quickly, what had happened was, I ordered a copy of this. It was printed completely off, like it was crooked. The cover, all of this was like this. And I was like, I'm sorry, how did this pass quality control? Isn't there supposed to be a quality control for Amazon? You would think, like, so I returned it. I was like, no, this is not going on my shelf. It's got to go back. So I returned it. They sent me a replacement, which looked way more decent. And then shortly after that, I want to say maybe 3 or 4 days after, I got a second copy. And I was like, what the fuck? What's happening? My husband immediately was like, check your account. I'm gonna do my Richard impression. Check your account because Amazon's been charging. Amazon's been double billing people for. I can't even get through my impersonation. So I did, and sure enough, they had charged me twice for the same book, and I was like, no, I didn't order 2 of these. Why the fuck would anybody do that? Obviously, unless they're planning on doing a giveaway. So I contacted Amazon and was like, this, why did you double bill me? Take this off. They did. And then they just told me to keep the book. Okay. So I did. And now I have an extra copy. So when this video goes up, I will be giving away a copy of this book. This book is also available in audio. I listened to the audio. Lord Jesus, so much better than the audio for book 2. I talked a little bit about it in the review for book 2, that the narrator was so Southern sounding. And I live in the South. I live in South Carolina. So I know what Southern sounds like. This guy was so over the top that I had a hard time listening to the audio for book 2. It was decent. It wasn't terrible enough that I turned it off, but it was over the top. This one, much better. The audio for this one, much better. I like the narrator that they chose for Maddie. She does sound young, but I feel like in Maddie's case, that's a good thing because she has been sheltered her whole life. She is quite young. And while this is not in any way like an age gap or marketed as an age gap, I think Flame is a little bit older than her, but obviously not by much, I don't think. Again, don't quote me. So, this book allegedly, we're going to know we're going to do it. This book allegedly has, according to Amazon, 461 pages. Does that look like 461 pages to you? This book also has a playlist at the end on Spotify. Well, I don't know if it's on Spotify, if it's actually on Spotify, but it has a playlist of songs that fit the book, which I always think when I see authors do that, that's a really nice addition to the book. I love that. Okay, so 461 pages, and in actuality, there are 435. Amazon, you didn't fuck me out of a 5-page prologue. You fucked me out of an entire chapter book. Where are my other 20 some odd pages of book? Lying motherfuckers. Okay, so this book in actuality has 435 pages in it, which is still a pretty chunky, that's a pretty chunky boy. But she needed all those pages to tell Flame and Maddie's story because it was an emotion read, okay? Now, I'm gonna read you guys the blurb really quick and then do a quick little breakdown of what this book is roughly about. I'm not giving you every plot point. We're not doing that anymore, so get used to that. The blurb for this is very long. Like, if you can see, that's a lot of words. I'm going to do my best, but I guarantee you I'll trip up and fuck up, which will end up in the bloopers. So you can have fun heckling me. It's fine. A lot of people do it. Now, the blurb for this one says, it has like a little tagline thing at the top. For fractured souls are like magnets drawn to collide into an impossible bliss. I like that. That sounds very cute. Okay. Labeled as a cursed woman of Eve from birth, Maddie has endured nothing but pain and repression at the hands of the Order's most sinister elder, Moses, in her young life. Now living with her sister at the Hangmen's secluded compound, Maddie is finally free. Free from endless days of torment and abuse. Liberated from a faith she no longer believes in. At age 21, the timid and shy Maddie is happily content to live in the confines of her home, safe from the outside world, safe from any threats, and curiously protected by the Hangman's most volatile member. Flame. The heavily pierced and tattooed brother, Flame. Flame. The man that ceaselessly watches her with his dark and searing eyes. The man that protects her with a breathtaking intensity. The man that stirs something unknown within her numbed heart. But when the time comes for Flame to need her help, Maddie bravely risks it all for the man that's just as broken as she. Flame, the Hangman's most notorious member, is ruled by only one thing: anger. Plagued with haunting dreams from his past, the isolating inability to be touched, and an incredible rage that consumes his every cell, his days are filled with darkness, complete darkness, but for one single ray of light: Maddie. Don't make me cry. The shy but beautiful woman he can't purge from his mind, the woman he has an overwhelming need to possess, and the only person that he has ever been able... Wait, that's a typo. And the only person that he has ever been able to touch him. I'm sorry, Tillie. It's not funny, but it's funny. You should get that corrected because there's a typo on the physical book. Get that fixed. Flame's only goal in life is to keep her safe, until a trigger from his past sends him spiraling into madness and the dark trapping him in the vicious recesses of his mind. His brothers think he's beyond saving, his only hope of salvation, Maddie and her light. Okay, it says dark contemporary romance contains explicit sexual situations, violence, disturbing, sensitive, and taboo subjects, offensive language, and very mature topics. Recommended for age 18 years and up. Okay. I appreciate that she put that on the back of the book because that's nice. Okay, so obviously the two main characters for this book are Flame and Maddie. It picks up exactly where book 2 ended off, which is Flame having a complete hissy fit that Maddie is at church. He's just been released from the hospital where Lila accidentally shot him in her very explicit meltdown at the end of book 2. The gun went off and she accidentally shot Flame because Flame jumped in front of a bullet for Maddie. The bullet would have hit Maddie and killed her probably. But Flame has just been released from the hospital and has come looking for Maddie. They're no longer living at the compound, like the actual, the clubhouse, the Hades Hangmen clubhouse. They were staying in Styx's old room, but now they have moved into like cabins that are located on the property. Flame's cabin is not too far from where Maddie is living with, I can't remember if she's living with Styx and May or if she's living with Kai and Lila. I can't remember. Anyway, she's staying with one of them. She has her own room and she's now living in a cabin on the property. Flame goes to church to get her at the beginning of book 3. And it's very clear from the jump that he has big issues with religion. And we find out later on in the book that the reason that he has these big issues with religion is because he was born, I want to say, on the spectrum. I don't know if it was explicitly said, but I think that's what the book basically alludes to, is that he was born on the spectrum and his father, who was a drunk and a seriously abusive dude, couldn't handle it and went full-on religious fanatic and was like, no, the reason that he's like this is because he's clearly possessed by the devil. Okay, so he takes him to church, where the church that he attends, where there's a pastor who is like that type that I'm going to tie you down and I'm going to cover you in snakes. Okay. This Flame's family in general, clearly some kind of like backwoods, I don't want to stereotype or be like derogatory towards like people who live in like the Appalachian Mountains and like don't have running water, and like I don't want to be I don't want to be nasty, but it's like that, where literally like they don't believe in modern medicine, like, but it's not for lack of trying on Flame's mother's part. It's the father that's the problem. The dad is a full-on psychotic. So Flame grew up in a ridiculously abusive house. He was essentially locked in an underground crawl space, like a cellar space, and made to live in the dirt, basically. And his mother obviously wanted to take him and run, but couldn't get away from his father. And so eventually that led to her own suicide. Another trigger for you there. And it fucked him up so badly, because from that point on, not only does he know in his rational mind, which is I say that so loosely because Flame is completely off his rocker. In his part of his rational mind, he knows that his mother is deceased. But the book alludes to like her being gone. So you think, okay, she ran. She couldn't take it and she ran. It's not until 3/4 way through the book you come to find out, no, she slit her wrists because she just could not take living with that man any longer. She didn't want to leave her son. She also had another child, a baby, that eventually got sick. And ended up dying in Flame's arms. And so he's been through a lot. He's been through a lot. From that point on, when his mother kills herself, his father begins routinely coming down into the cellar to sexually assault him. He has never known, as a grown adult, he has never known another person's touch that didn't cause severe PTSD. And it's not because he's afraid they're going to do something to him necessarily. He is afraid that he's going to do something to them. The death of his mom, the death of his brother, all coincided with times shortly after he physically touched one of them. And between that and the fact that his father and the pastor of that church basically told him, you kill everything you touch. You're evil. You have flames running through your veins, through your blood. And he believed them. Over time, over the course of growing up, he believed that he had physical flames traveling through his blood. It would make him hot. And what he was feeling was, in fact, anger and rage, which was really the only emotion that he could show at that time in his young life. And that could be because of his being on the spectrum. But he didn't recognize the emotion for what it was. He believed everything that they fed him, which was that he was evil and he had flames running through his body. The only thing that eased the flames was to self-harm. And so he cut himself frequently. So he's never been able to physically touch anyone without the fear of somehow something bad happening to them or somehow harming them. And so because of that, he has distanced and closed himself off. The only time he does touch people is during fits of rage, when he's getting ready to kill someone for the club. And at that point, all bets are off, because I don't care what happens to you, I'm going to kill you anyway. So, yeah. Now he's met Maddie. Maddie is May's younger sister, blooded sister. She has also been dubbed a cursed daughter of Eve, because of her attractiveness to men. Like a lot of the other, like the other girls, she's very beautiful and made for a very tempting target. And so she was relegated to being accursed and being isolated while she lived in the compound of the order. She has since, obviously, she was abused sexually by in the compound of the order, there are elders. Did you hear that pop? I'm so old, I'm cracking. Within the order, there are elders. Oh my God, every time. And the elder that took charge of her repenting, her teaching, her whatever, I'm gonna fuck the evil out of you type thing. The one that was in charge of her was an elder named Moses, and he was the most sadistic and just deranged elder of all of them, basically. So Maddie, out of all of the cursed, Maddie has had it the worst. She got it the roughest. Now she's free, and she's living on the Hangman's property with the brothers. From the time that she met Flame, there has been an instant connection because he was her savior. He was the one that killed Moses. And he did it in such a he did it in such a blatant way that she felt so grateful that Moses had gotten a taste of his own medicine, right? So from their first meeting, where she literally throws herself at him, hugging him, thanking him for saving her and setting her free, nothing happened to her after he touched her. And so he's been obsessed with her ever since. He literally sleeps outside of her door to protect her, to make sure she stays safe. And it's to the point of, it is at the point of obsession, where he's like, I have to watch her 24/7. And he does. When she moves to the cabin, he literally stands outside of her window and just sits there to protect her. Now, he's been released from the hospital. He's malnourished. He hasn't been able to he's not reacclimating well. But there's something that happens on like a run. He goes on a run with AK and Viking, and something happens. There's a drive-by shooting, and a mother and small child get caught in the crosshairs of the bullets. The mother dies, and the child is crying for Flame to pick him up or to help him. And he knows that he can't. And he sees himself in the boy, and it causes a severe psychotic break. From that point on, the brothers think that he's done for. He's a lost cause. They've done everything they can to pull him out. He can't stand to be restrained, but they've had no choice but to restrain him for his own protection, because he's so lost inside his head and inside memories of what his father did to him that he doesn't recognize anything that's happening around him. It's just the flames, the flames, the flames. Everything is the flames. Maddie hears about this, and she essentially locks herself inside of Flame's house with him, and is like, if anyone can pull him out, it's going to be me. I have to try. And so she does, and she eventually pulls him out of the state that he's in. And from that point on, they form a very tight bond. And going through the book, you get to see his progression from someone who can't be touched at all and has severe psychological issues, to the way that Maddie, she soothes him. She's the only one whose touch can calm the flames. So his story and all that it entails comes out throughout the book. Maddie's story, while traumatic, is pretty cut and dry. We know what happened to Maddie. Flame is the real focus of this book, because it gets to the point where they've been intimate with each other, which was a hurdle to get over to begin with. Now they are tight. They're bonded so tightly that they've professed their love for each other. And Maddie asks him, do you know what happened to your father? Do you know what happened to the pastor? She knows in her mind that he's not going to be able to let go of his past completely, that he's not going to be able to move forward with any kind of legitimate life, unless he gets closure, basically. as long as those people are walking the earth, it's going to be a problem. And he's not going to ever feel fully safe. He's not ever going to feel like he can move on from that, what happened to him. So towards the end of the book, she basically says, you have to take care of this. You have to... He comes to that realization after talking with her, but he comes to the realization that he has to go look for his father and the pastor, and he needs to kill them both because he won't be able to have a real life with Maddie unless he does. So obviously Viking and AK, which are his two besties, go with him because they're not going to be left out. Who wants to be left out of a killing spree? Right? So they go. They find his father living in the same busted ass house that he grew up in. And in the process of beating the shit out of his dad and prepping to lock him in the underground hole that he was raised in, he comes to realize that he meets with the revelation that there is someone else in the hole. And when he kills his father, eventually kills his father, and gets the boy out of the hole, come to find out it's a teenage version of himself. Like it is his younger half brother. His father remarried after Flame got away, and they had a child. The man was so far demented that he just automatically was like, you're just like your brother. You're just like Josiah. Josiah is Flame's real name, by the way. You're just like Josiah. And he threw him in the hole. That mother, booked ass and ran. Left her son behind. And from that point on, he came down to beat him regularly. Luckily, he was never sexually abused because by this time, the father was so physically impaired by alcohol and just time. He'd gotten old. He was fat. Like he had like a beer belly. Like he was just so imbibed with booze residue that he couldn't like physically get it up. He couldn't sexually abuse his other son. However, the boy has lived in the hole for a good number of years. Flame gets him out, but is at the beginning very like loath to want to get close to him because he doesn't know what to say. He doesn't know how to talk to people, Flame, because he's autistic, because he lacks, in appearance, he lacks empathy with a lot of things. Like he can't articulate. He doesn't articulate emotions the same way that other people do. So when he speaks, he comes across very cold, very blunt, very whatever. The brothers know that, hey, this is just how Flame is. We're not going to take anything he says personally, etc., etc. His little brother does not. At first, he's like, whoa. But then Viking and AK sit him down and basically tell him, listen, Flame's different. He's not like other people. And they do eventually form a bond. Flame tells him, I had a little brother, but he died. But I would like the chance to get to know you, and right? And this is after they've brought him back from the house. Flame, in between these two events, Flame goes and finds the pastor and viciously murders him. He comes back to Maddie with a younger brother in tow. And this is like a whoa to the club, right? But Viking and AK take the little brother. So they take Asher under their wings and basically make him like a prospect. Like he's going to be patched in and he's going to become a brother eventually. And it gives Flame the opportunity to be able to get close to his brother. And by this time, Maddie has convinced him that what he's feeling are not real flames. He doesn't need to cut. He doesn't feel that compulsion anymore because she's there and because she soothes him. And so she just overall lifts him up and makes him a better version of himself, right? And it's so heartwarming. Now, peppered throughout this book, you also have a third POV, which is from Cain's point of view. This is a recurring thing that has happened since book 2. All through book 2, there was third POV from Cain's point of view. That carried over into this book. He is the new prophet of the order. They have a massive new compound, way more equipped to deal with like attacks, etc., etc. He has a twin brother, Judah. Judah is very clearly not right. He's a psycho. He is just like the other elders in terms of religious fanaticism. He believes that Cain, in taking over, will continue the teachings of their uncle, which essentially allowed for them to basically rape little girls. Throughout this book, you can see the decline of Judah and Cain's relationship. It becomes very apparent towards the end of the book, as you get towards the end of the book, that Judah is evil. And something bad is going to happen to Cain. Because at first, Cain is like, I'm going to try and be the prophet. I'm going to wait for signs from God. He'll give me teachings and I'll make the compound a better place. In the back of his mind, he does not want to believe that his brother, his twin, his only living relative that was close to him, that he grew up with, he doesn't want to believe that his brother truly condones this behavior of what their uncle, the teachings their uncle was putting out. As you get towards the end of the book, it's very, very apparent that he does. And that culminates in Judah taking Cain to one of the Lord's sharings, which is essentially just a circle jerk of old men raping 6 and 8-year-old kids, using contraptions like bear traps to keep their legs apart. It's very graphically described. And when he gets to that Lord's sharing, he has a full-blown meltdown, like a flip out. And he basically tells his brother, this is the shit you're into. You're a sick fuck. Up to this point, he did not want to believe that his brother was capable of this. Now, after having seen his brother basically offer a small child up to him on a silver platter with tears in her eyes, and his brother basically going, go fuck her, he realizes his brother is sick. And he tells Judah, I'm going to change all of this. All of this is going away. If I am truly the prophet, I do not believe that this is a thing. I'm going to do away with it. It becomes apparent by the end of the book that Judah is not having that. him and like one or two of the other elders stage a coup, and essentially they lock Cain up, and Judah assumes his identity because they're twins. He essentially becomes Cain. I am now the new prophet. The man that's locked in the cell is my twin brother Judah, who was a sick man, and he was a traitor, and I had to lock him up for everyone's benefit. Now, the end of the book comes, and Cain is in a cell. And it leaves off with what the fuck is going to happen to Cain, aka Ryder, who used to be in the club. And that's basically how the book ends. Okay, 45 minutes later. I said it was going to be short, and I lied again. I did it again. That's essentially the gist of this book. Like I said before, this book is very heavy on triggers. If you are easily triggered by any of the aforementioned things, do not. If you are not easily triggered, or you believe that these scenarios will not plague you, I would highly suggest that you read this series. I am loving it so far. This book was just, it really hit. And I came into it with very high expectations because I had built up Flame and Maddie's relationship in my head already. I was like, they're a thing. And it definitely met or surpassed my expectations of the book. The overall plot that's playing out in the background with Cain, I like that too, because it makes for such a fuller, like full-bodied plot. So yeah, I would definitely recommend this book and this series to other people. For the rating for the book, I would give it a solid 9, maybe even like a 9.25 out of 10. I loved it. I loved it so much. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. If you enjoyed this video, if you like me and you like my channel, please consider subscribing. I really appreciate it. If you would like, you can follow me on social media. I am pretty active on Instagram. The rest of the places, not so much. But I will link them all in the description box below, and I'll put a little banner here on the screen for you guys to see. And if you're interested in checking out some of my bookish merch, I do have a Teespring shop, and I will put the link for that in the description box as well, and put the link here on the screen for you guys to see. And I think that's it. I think I'm done. 50 minutes later. Thank you guys so much for joining me for another video. Hopefully this review was concise-ish and made you want to read the book, because I loved it, and I would highly recommend it to other people who like MC romance, who like a good get you in your feels type book. It definitely hit for me. So yeah, I thank you guys for joining me for another video. I will see you in my next one. I love you so much. Bye. Okay, today may very well be the day that I murder this rabbit, because he's already starting, and I literally just started recording. Stop. Okay. We're just gonna get into it, because it's been so long since I read this book. I'm so behind in reviews. It's ridiculous. Will I remember anything? I don't know. I honestly don't know. But we're gonna try. We're gonna try. We're gonna give it our best shot, and we'll see how it goes. I believe that there are 6. Don't quote me on that. But I believe that there are 6 books in this series that have been released so far. It could be more like 8. I'm not positive, but I'm gonna wet my whistle. Like a little rodent. Okay. Now living with her sister at the I told you. I told you it's gonna happen. And that ceaselessly watches her and his... Candice, I know you know how to read. Stop. Stop it. But when the time comes for Flame to need... Oh, God. Stop. Okay. Plagued with haunting demons from his past, the isolated inability to be touched. Okay. But that's what it alludes to. Oy vey. I have so many messages. I don't know what time it is. What time is it? It's 5:02. And I have to leave in 30 minutes, which means I'm not going to get another review done right now. Great. I think that's it. I think I'm done. Oh, dear God. I'm so parched. I think my next review is going to be either another Fiona Cole, or I'm gonna do Run Posy Run by, what is her name? Kate C. Wells? It's the first time I've ever read anything by her, so yeah. I love you guys so much. I'll see you next time. This rabbit, I swear to God. I will see you in my next video. Maybe I'll have Curly here then. Maybe. Doubt it. We'll see. Like, he knows what he's doing. He knows he's making me a rage. Anyway, I love you guys so much, and I'll see you next time. I'm gonna go. Bye.